Hey guys, I'm Aditya Thakur and welcome to another video on the Get Set Code channel by Newton School. In this video, we'll get started with exceptional handling in Python. So we'll look at try, except, else and finally keyword, and we'll see how to use them inside your Python program. So without any further ado, let's get started with it. I'm Aditya Thakur. I'm an instructor here at Newton School, and you can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Coming to exception handling, so when an error occurs, Python compiler would just stop the execution of the program. So we'll see how to manage these exceptions, as in how to manage them using a try and catch block, and how you can instead get the exception printed out to console without having to crash your program. So let's get started with that. Before we go into it, a quick introduction to Newton School. It is a platform which prepares you for your career in tech. They have courses designed for freshers, for working professionals, and also for women. And they'll first train you for 6 months and help you become an amazing full stack developer. So Newton School has a network of around 300 plus great companies. So after you're done with the training, they'll ensure that you get placed in the best companies in the country. And the best part is that they have a pay after placement program, so you don't have to pay anything until you are placed with a minimum 5 lakh CTC. And the Launchpad initiative is taken by Newton School to help people who want to start coding to learn programming languages for free. So this video will also be available in the Launchpad section of Newton School, where you can practice. So coming to exception handling, when an error occurs, or exception as we call it, Python would normally stop the execution, generate an error message. So these exceptions can be handled by using try. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go over to newtonschool.co and open the code editor. So if you don't already have an account, you can quickly sign up. Since I do already have one, I'll just log into my account. So once you are logged in, go over to the playground, go down to algorithm playground, and you can create a new playground or just open an existing one, but I'll create a new one. And this should take me to the code editor. Here, before getting started, we need to select our compiler. So we have been working with Python, we've been using Python 3. So I'll select Python 3 compiler. Coming to code. Now, if you were to, let us say, print out a statement that said something like print num, but this number isn't defined, right? So if I'll just do something like this and try to run this program, I should get an error. So I have got an error. It says name error, the num is not defined, and I'm also getting a message exited. That means the execution was stopped after the error was encountered. So what happens with try is basically how you can do it. So you'll specify try. Try is the keyword we use to manage exceptions in Python, and you can type in print. Again, the same statement. I am using a variable that I haven't defined, and I'm just putting it inside the try block, right? We've seen indentation in the previous videos. Now what I'll do is I'll type in except. What except does is except manages the exception. So for if an exception occurs, what I can do is I can print out a string that says an exception occurred. Okay. So if I run this program right now, let's see what happens. So the program compiles completely. There is no error. You don't get a standard error, or you don't even get a message that the code was exited, before completing the execution. It was completely done. And what happened was, basically, since we did not have num defined, the try block was after it encountered this error, it went to the except block and printed out an exception occurred. So that is how it works. Try is used to manage the exception. If you do not have try, what would happen is basically the compiler would exit your program, it would crash. But if you have a try, you have handled your exceptions. That would be the right word to say. then it would do what needs to be done. So this could happen in case like when you do not have a value for num, like there is this issue, you do not have a value for it. So you can define some handling for it, as in you can think of that case and tell what to do if that occurs. So that is how you manage exceptions. In Python we use the try and except. We also have other keywords, as in there is the else keyword, and you can also specify the exception that might occur. So let us say like you are aware that there are chances that num could not be defined. So what you can do is you can create an exception except create a name error. So if you had seen that last error that we had got, so it was a name error. So I know that there could be an exception where it's not defined, so I can get a name error and I can specify an exception for that. Print alright, so if I run this program right now, what would happen is basically it would print out a variable name error. Why? Because we are getting a name error where we are trying to execute this particular block of code. Therefore the compiler checks out exception handling for that particular error. So if you know like this is the error that can occur, so you can like create a specific handling for that particular error, and you can have a different print statement like we have variable name error. And for all the other exceptions that might occur other than the name error, this except block would work for that. There is also the else keyword. So you can use the else keyword to define a block of code to be executed if no errors were raised. So I'll type in else and I'll type in print successful execution. Alright, so for else to work, what should happen is basically everything should work fine. If there are no errors that occur, then the else keyword would work. So I need to replace this error statement with something that works. So let us say hello world. This should work all right. And if I run this program right now, what would happen is it should print out hello world, and after like everything has executed successfully, it would print out this else part, which is successful execution, and you see successful execution printed to console. But if there was an error, like let us say for the same print num there was an error that occurs, then the else would not be executed. There is also this other keyword called finally. So everything inside the finally block would be executed irrespective of whether you are getting an error or not. So you can use this something like this, finally print executed, right? So if I run this right now, what should happen is basically irrespective of this error that we are getting, this finally block would be executed, and executed should be printed out to console. So that is how it works. The difference between else and finally, again, else works only when everything is successfully executed. Finally works irrespective. If you get an error, it would be executed. If you do not get an error, still it would be executed. So these are all the important keywords in exception handling. The first is try, which basically takes in all your code that might give some error. Then there is except, which you can define, which you can use to define certain error handling for it. As in, if you know the error, then you can specify the name of the error and mention the steps that need to be done. If you do not know the error, you can still use the except keyword. Else is used to print out certain statements or run some code that you want to execute after like this try code is successfully executed. So this else wouldn't work if there is an error in the code. If you want to do it irrespective whether there is an error or there is not an error, you can use the finally keyword, which will be executed like even if you get error. So we didn't see it for a successful case, so let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it for a successful case. So let us also run it So you will see like else is also executed, and the finally block is also executed when there are no errors. So these are all the keywords. You can also raise an exception. Let us say like if there is some code like x equal to c equal to minus 2, and you do not want this c to be any time less than 0. So you can raise an exception by using raise exception. So if I run this code right now, what should happen is you should get an error, and it would raise an exception which says exception value below 0, and you'll also get a message that it was executed with like the code. So you can wrap it inside a try catch block, then type in try and c equals to, as we had written, -2, and if c is less than 0, then we were raising an exception. Raise exception value below 0. Yeah, so now even if the exception was raised, what would happen with the try and catch block? The program would not exit, it would not crash, and instead it would just print it out to console. So that is the advantage of exception handling, and I hope it makes sense. Thank you so much for watching, and if you are new here, do not forget to subscribe the channel for more videos. Click on the notification bell icon, and that is it for today's video. We covered all the different keywords, and we looked at how to use them, what is the advantage of exception handling. Thank you for watching. I am Aditya Thakur, and I'll see you in the next video.